did people like the Crucibles song?
Yeah, I called it. Gosh, you're making me dig back in the trenches here. This is fun. It was called The Ballad of Giles Corey and John Proctor. So if anybody is like a super literature or theater nerd, it's called The Ballad of Giles Corey and John Proctor. Those are two of the characters in the story. It was super well received. I think I got asked to do an encore for my first performance, of my first original song. 15 years old, I thought I just made it in 10th grade, in front of 20 people.
You peaked in 10th grade is what I'm hearing.
That's it.
Welcome, everybody, to Casting for Two, the podcast, as always, hosted by me, Chris. Welcome, everybody, to episode number 391. Welcome, everybody. Anybody else having allergies? I'm having a lot of allergies right now, and I'm barely able to breathe because my nose is stuffed up. I know that's TMI, but, that's how I feel. So if I sound weird, that's why, all right? A great episode today, great guest. As always, I want to remind everybody, if you're not wearing a mask, please do so. And also, while you're at it, since you're already wearing the mask, please treat others with kindness and respect. That is, once again, that is the motto of the podcast right now. And forever. And if you want to take it as your motto, I'm not going to stop you. That's up to you. It's for you to have. So, my guest today is a wonderful musician, singer, songwriter, person. We didn't talk about it in the episode, but we have since texted after. A wrestling fan. Mr. Charles Grace is literally gracing us with his presence. And he has an album out right now, The Wreckage, which I would recommend people pick up, check out, listen, tell him what you think, give him thanks and praise, all that good stuff. But yeah, it great chat with Charles. I don't know why I said Carl's, with Charles. And you know what? I'm losing my mind, so we got to get into this episode, all right? So everybody sit back, relax, and Chris, please hand the episode over to Charles. So Charles, take it away.
Hi, Chris. How are you?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Doing well. Thanks for asking.
Of course. How is your day going so far?
Day is going well. Yeah, I just worked this morning, running some errands. Just feeling pretty productive.
Nice. Is it kind of, I don't want to say the calm before the storm, but you have an album coming out here very, 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 very soon. Is it just like, are you in a Zen mode, or are you just like, oh, well, there's more I have to do, or what's your headspace at?
I think I've definitely arrived at the place where it's closer to the Zen mode. That's a good way to put it. I've been living with it for so long. It was meant to come out sooner, and then things changed on a global scale. So I think it just feels, for me, I'm thankful for the extra time I had to give it a little extra love and care and prepare everything. But yeah, I feel at peace about it. I'm just kind of ready at this point to, share it with some more ears.
Yeah. And, obviously we're all going through this situation that we're all in right now.
Hmm.
But one of the things I like to ask people is, being quarantining at home and all that. Have you noticed that your creativity has gone up? I mean, you said you had more time to do the album. Was that, where a majority of the focus was, or were you coming up with some new stuff?
Yeah, yeah. I didn't consciously set out, or I didn't have a goal, like as far as like an exact number of songs that I wanted to write during this time. But I think it just kind of happened. I carved out some time. I think, like a lot of people, I started getting a lot more home studio gear. Prior to this quarantine, I really didn't have any home studio gear. Everything I had was live equipment. I had amps and mic stands, all that stuff. But everything was for live performances in public. So I think for me, it was just like I got a keyboard and I got an interface and just a couple of studio monitors. Just the ability to track ideas as they came, I think, was very conducive for cultivating some new stuff. So I feel thankful. I've been a little bit more creative than I thought I might be. I thought I might be overwhelmed by everything for a minute, but I'm thankful for the new songs.
Nice. That's been an interesting thing to see as well, is because when this first started going on, I like to watch YouTubers and podcasts and stuff like that, and just seeing how far along people have come from the beginning to now, equipment wise. It's like, oh, everyone got new cameras and new microphones, and just production wise, even though they're at their home, it's gone up, and I've gotten a kick out of seeing that, just because what else are we gonna do, right?
Yeah. It's been encouraging to see how people respond, and I love that creativity hasn't necessarily been canceled. I love that I've just seen a lot of my peers and people that I don't necessarily know, but I've seen a lot of the creative community just respond in ways like you're talking about. I think in basketball, the term is pivot. When you go for a certain play and then maybe you're being blocked or that play is not going to work, so you pivot and you change your play and you adapt. You kind of edit on the fly. So I think that's what I've been experiencing myself, and that's what I've been observing. Is that a lot of musicians and creative people are editing on the fly right now. They're just doing their best to respond, and they're still making really beautiful things and sharing them with people. And people are home to consume it.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's also not a thing that's nice, that people they're hungry for more content, even though there's so much out there. It's just like, well, okay, well, let's keep rolling it out. And on a creator sense, it's nice because you can still create content, and more people will hear it. So
yeah, 100%. I love seeing that. I love seeing it.
But I'm curious about your songwriting process, because I was listening to one of the singles earlier, and it's the writing, the lyric side seemed very, very personal. I'm just wondering, is there a certain kind of headspace you have to be in to write a song, or is it one of those occasions where you're folding clothes and it's like, oh, I got a song idea?
That happens. The middle of the night, scratching down on the nearest piece of paper or something like that. Or recently, I've learned to enjoy the benefits of the 21st century and just use the notes feature on my phone. But recently one of the newer songs I wrote since this album's been recorded, I got the idea while I was working. I got the first line while I was doing something completely unrelated. I wasn't doing anything there was no vibe or there's no candles. Like it wasn't, it was just like the least, the least expected atmosphere you would think that something would come. So that does happen where I'll kind of get a clip of something, if you will, or just a little notion, and then I kind of look around and make sure that that's it, and then I'll record it or write it down or do whatever I need to do, and revisit it when I can. But I guess to answer your question, with songwriting for me, I've learned that my process has changed a lot in the past 2 years. I used to claim that it took me months to write a song, and I think some people say that. They say, "Oh, it took me 6 months to write this song," and I used to say stuff like that. But I started holding myself accountable and really looking at how much time I was spending or committing and really carving out the space. And no, it didn't take me 6 months to write that song. I started it 6 months ago, and then I didn't revisit it until 6 months later.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's really committing to it, carving out the space, and just making judgment calls. Like just not trying to force it in or force it out, and just really carving out the time and committing to it, and just not being afraid to write down something that might sound cheesy or corny, but just kind of letting it come out, almost like word vomit for a minute, and then just don't be afraid. I used to have a really good friend of mine who was a writer that said, don't be afraid to write crap. She said, you need to write crap every day so that you eventually stumble upon, whatever the gem might be. You're not ever going to find the treasure if you don't just continuously write crap every day.
I think that is a very smart way to look at things, for sure. When did your songwriting? How long have you been writing songs for?
Well, I started not long after I started playing guitar. So I started playing guitar when I was 13, and I was writing music by the time I was 15. The very first song I ever wrote was actually an extra credit project for a high school English class. Before I played music, I always took an interest in literature and writing, and I would write my own kind of short stories about my family being superheroes and such. And so when I started playing music, it seemed like a natural progression to me. Like, oh, well, everybody must want to write their own, right? So I got the, I didn't know that there were people that just like to play. I thought everybody, once they learned how to play music, they would eventually want to write their own. So this high school, it was like an extra credit project. I remember we came to the end of the reading. We were reading The Crucible by Arthur Miller, which is a play that I believe was written in the 50s. It was, kind of based on the Salem witch trials, and it was also a parallel with the Red Scare that was happening at the time in the United States. So came to the end of that reading, and I think I was in 10th grade, and we had an option to receive extra credit, and there were several options, and one of them was to write an original song based on The Crucible. You could kind of, it was pretty malleable, the project, as long as it was relevant to the text. And that's really what jump-started my interest in songwriting. I jumped on it, and I never looked back.
Nice. And did people like the Crucible's song?
Yeah, I called it. You're making me dig back in the trenches here. This is fun. It was called The Ballad of Giles Corey and John Proctor. So if anybody is like a super literature or theater nerd, it was called The Ballad of Giles Corey and John Proctor. Those are two of the characters in the story. And it was super well received. I think I got asked to do an encore for my first performance, of my first original song. 15 years old, I thought I just made it in 10th grade, in front of 20 people.
You peaked in 10th grade is what I'm hearing.
That's it.
Pardon me, but I want to do a little bit more trench digging here.
Hey, come on in.
As far as writing music and doing this for a long time, Is there ever a moment, now that you're older and more experienced in it, do you ever look back at those songs and just think, oh, wow, I don't know who this person was, or flashbacks of the time that, you were going through life-wise? Did anything like that happen to you?
Yeah, yeah. I don't have the unfamiliarity. I think the snapshot is a great way to put it. I think for me, the songs are really time capsules. They absolutely illustrate a specific time of my life. I can remember everything: the sights, the tastes, the smells, where I lived, the clothes I wore, how long my hair was. Now I've got short hair, but I don't think I got a proper haircut for 7 or 8 years at one time. I used to have hair down past my shoulders, and
Yeah,
it just made guitar playing a lot more fun, honestly.
Of course.
Yeah. Yeah, I think for me, I certainly remember who that person was. There's a familiarity. When I look at it as, for me, just over time, it's kind of a chronicling of hopefully what has become my growth, not just as a songwriter, but as an individual. I think for me, songwriting has always been a means to articulate things that I don't know if I could process otherwise. And it's just I think that's the best way to put it. It's a means for me to just kind of put things into words and communicate and hopefully make sense of things that are sometimes not so sensible.
Yeah, it's I had one of those moments of as a kid I was just always like I would draw myself with long hair, and I'd be like, one day, boy, I'm gonna have long hair and it's gonna be great. And then I want to say my junior year in high school is when I started to let it grow out. And I was in a band, I played drums. I can't write a song to save my life, but
I can't multitask like you, so I envy you.
It's not to put down drummers, but it's just caveman stuff. You get the sticks and you beat drum with sticks. Anyone can do it. But and drummers are tuning out right now. That's fine. They know I'm right. That's why. But
oh well.
Yeah, there came a point in time when it's just I look back at the music that my friends and I were doing, and it's not that I have a regret doing them. It just wasn't my preference of music. But of course, I was just growing, so I didn't have a preference until I got older and was like, no, I want to do this. And luckily enough, I had a good friend who had similar interests, and that's when I feel like, hey, that's when music became fun for me. But your whole point of doesn't everybody want to write music when they learn an instrument? I think that is true because it's we're surrounded by people like the Beatles or the Foo Fighters, just all these people who can play the hell out of their instruments, but also write good songs. It's like, well, we can do that, right? Of course, that quote unquote we can do that, but still.
Yeah, no, I think it's extremely. I think you hit the nail on the head. It's very empowering for me. As a listener, I mean, I'm still a music fan. I'm a music geek and nerd. If it was still commonplace, or if people didn't look at me weird or ask me what kind of weird coaster I was handing them, I would still make mix CDs for people and draw on them with Sharpies and like customize the playlist. And, that's how I told girls I was interested in them in high school. I made them mix CDs, and then I put a lot of time and effort into those the arrangement, like not just the song selection, but the order, and the flow, the momentum. I really wanted to create a story arc. For me, that same like that, the butterflies in your stomach, or the goosebumps you get, or the excitement, or the tears that like nobody else could make you cry, just because maybe not always because you were sad, but when I listen to bands like Death Cab for Cutie or the Avett Brothers, or, you know, just stuff that's really moving, and it absolutely, you feel like they had a surveillance camera on your experience, not in a pervasive way, but you know, they just so accurately portrayed what you might have been going through. And for me, it was always my intention to be able to do that for somebody else. That to be able to make somebody else feel the same goosebumps that I felt, you know, the first time I heard Under the Bridge by Red Hot Chili Peppers. You know, that was the song that made me want to play guitar. So, you know, if I could even just have like a fraction of making somebody feel whatever that is, you know, like I think of bands like Nirvana in the early 1990s, like really just, regardless of people's opinions or whether or not they're somebody's favorite band, they really represent a movement and really spoke for a lot of people. And I think that's something as a songwriter and an artist that I would always, you know, kind of aim toward, I guess. That's kind of that's one of the missions.
It's really amazing how well a good mixtape or, you know, a playlist, whatever, could just get to people. Especially, you know, I feel like we're pretty similar in the sense that, you know, we feel music. We have a reaction towards music, and sometimes we can't say what we want to say, but you know what? There's this song that says everything that we want to say, so let's just do that instead.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh man, that's a good play. I guess DJs are still around, but you know, still, like, a good set is just, that's kind of a lost art now.
Yeah, and I think so. Well, we're coming in here right now, and I'm going to declare it, man. We're bringing it back. I think even if it's just playlists, I think we can start a new trend and bring back the importance of just arranging a good playlist or a good set. I think there's still a lot of value in that.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I started up a Discord channel not too long ago, and one of the things I was excited to do was just post music every a song a day of just how I was feeling, what I was listening to, just stuff like that. And the reaction from it has been just great, and you know, more people have been posting into it, which is what I wanted. I want people to post, you know, what songs they want to listen to or what they're listening to and stuff like that. And I don't know. Music sounds good. Music's awesome. Is the point I'm trying to say.
Who was it that said that? Gosh, forgive me for remembering the quote and not the source. However, I believe it was a gentleman named Henry Matisse who said creativity takes courage. I don't think he was a musician. He might have been a visual artist or a painter. Forgive me if anybody listening knows. Please tell me so that I can not fumble this next time. But just the notion that creativity takes courage always really resonated with me. And I remember writing a paper in college that I kind of refer to music as, you know how some people refer to alcohol as liquid courage?
Yeah.
You know, like the drunk man's words are the sober man's thoughts. So for me, it's like the songwriter's words were like the shy person's thoughts.
Right.
You know, like that was the correlation that I was made. Like, gosh, I was very introverted, super shy. I wouldn't initiate conversations with people. I would typically let them speak for several hours and kind of warm up to them before I would enter the conversation. You know what I'm saying? So music really, especially songwriting, just the more, because there's so many things that come with that for me. Like the more that I write, the more that I want to read. The more that I read, the more that I want to write. You know, and then the more that I do both of those things, the greater expansion of knowledge that I gain, just about things beyond my four walls, things beyond my experiences. Like that. If I can circle back to what you were saying earlier, that's certainly what's changed. When I think back to like 15, 16-year-old me, it's completely natural, right? If you're a young man who's beginning to write songs, you do not get out of songwriting without writing at least 1 or 70 songs about breakups or relationship. Like that.
Yeah.
So I think for me, it kind of moved. It started out as like just what you know. What you know is, girls and, school and, your family and, kind of what's in your 4 walls or your city, and then the more that you kind of dive into that stuff, like I think creativity encourages you to explore, and it kind of gets you out of your comfort zone. It gets you out of what you knew before, and I think that's where I've been really intrigued lately. It's just kind of, I feel like the internet's been advertising psychology books to me or something, just because of things that I've been ordering on Amazon because I'm interested in said subject matter.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, Amazon's like, look, you need this, okay? We see what you buy. You need this right now.
Yeah, it's like guitar strings and books by Viktor Frankl. There you
go. I didn't add that to the cart. Trust us.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little Jeff Bezos pops up and is like, I got this. Don't worry.
Yeah.
What was your message that you wanted to say with the new album?
Yeah, so for me, I think I've kind of arrived at this thesis for me of, so I mentioned earlier that I've always felt like for me, my default setting is to write about what informs my life, and when I was younger, what informed my life was on a smaller scale. And then as life goes, the older you get, the things that inform your life start to expand, right? I have an older brother who, he's still my brother, but he's also somebody's husband now. He's also somebody's father, right? Those roles change and the relationships expand. So for me, I think the main thing I wanted to communicate about this album and these songs is the primary subject matter has a lot to do with identity and value and worth and where we find those things. And for me, it could, especially as a performer, I'm not going to lie to you. I mean, this pandemic has reminded me how much I miss applause and that kind of instant gratification. You know what I'm saying? And I've really been forced to reconsider and kind of redefine what motivates me to continue creating and continue playing music. Because right now, the bells and whistles and the pizza and the playtime, as far as performing and engaging with an audience and having that kind of acknowledgement in a public setting is very few and far between. So for me, I think it's the most important thing is to recognize that while who I am should inform what I create, but what I create should not become the basis for who I am. It shouldn't become the thing by which I measure my value, right? Like, I didn't write 8 songs this month, so I must be a failure. Or I'm not. I don't have as many followers as my artist friend over here in LA. I don't. Oh gosh, like my music video doesn't look as good as theirs, or I'm not having as much success. Like whatever that might be, I think it's just me constantly going back to this notion of like, well, but that doesn't. For me, it shouldn't really hinder the value of what you create. You should still write about what informs your life. You should still write about what matters to you. Just tell the truth beautifully, I think is the thesis statement.
Yeah, no, it's very easy, especially these days, to get caught up in hey, what's trending, what's going viral, what's how many fall in, stuff like that. And sometimes the message or the product is secondary. So having a feel on, this is about, what I'm doing. If people like it, great. They're welcome along the ride. But I'm not, that's all I'm going to worry about. And I think that's perfectly healthy and a good thing to worry about.
Yeah. I think you make a great point, right? Like I heard somebody tell me this. It might have been another musician or professor of mine, but what you write or the music you create is not going to be for everybody. It's just not everybody's cup of tea. but what you write is going to be for somebody.
Right.
It's going to be for somebody. Like your experience. It's kind of like, I think that's something that's changed for me too. Sometimes we get so involved in ourselves as creative people. It's like when you're crushing really hard on somebody, and all you can think about is that person. Every song you hear, every street sign you see, whatever, like you're just so enmeshed in whatever that is. So I think what's really changed for me is, like, you get outside yourself and you realize, yeah, this isn't going to be for everybody.
Right.
And it just kind of, it's like, it's okay. Like, I think you get so enmeshed in that idea that, like, gosh, it has to appeal to everyone. Dude, it's okay if my 70 or 80-year-old grandfather, doesn't really like the music I write. I shouldn't feel rejected or upset. Like,
right.
It's not he was born in a much different time. If he likes Frank Sinatra, then I'm just not going to be his cup of tea. It doesn't necessarily mean that what I'm writing is invaluable. It's just not for that person.
Right. Yeah, and there's no shame in that. I've always followed the rule ever since, I have a film background. I love film.
Oh,
my number one rule is just that I just need one person. If this connects with one person, I'm totally fine with that. And it's something I've carried on to literally everything I do. So if this podcast was listened by one person, like, I would still be doing it. It doesn't, because that's all that matters, really. Just has somebody connecting with it. So,
gosh, that makes so much sense now. Though the title is Casting for Two, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what was if you don't mind me asking, what was some of your background in film, or like what kind of led you down that path?
Yeah, I mean, so film was always just something that I wanted to do. I had a mental breakdown in community college. And, I say mental breakdown as it wasn't, it was just me not enjoying what I was doing.
Yeah.
But I was working at a movie theater at the time, and I was loving, the idea of the movie making process. I used to be a projectionist. I used to build the movie. Like, that was my thing, and I loved it. And I said, this is something I really want to do. So I dropped out of community college and saved up and went to film school, where I learned all aspects of filmmaking, and and then of course began the grind of looking for work after film school. So I do freelance work here and then, but creatively I needed something that could be constant for me. So that's when my buddy's like, hey, we should do this thing called podcasting. And I was like, oh, sure, why not? I didn't expect to love it as much as I do. That project that my friend and I started since, fell away. But this thing just started taking off, and I was just like, this is where I want to be. And I get to use my, quote unquote film, brain on it every once in a while. So I'm happy about that.
Yeah. Do you feel that, just as I'm listening to you speak, I kind of hear, correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like this was a very organic transition for you. Like, it still scratches the itch of being able to tell stories and engage with other creatives.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, no, it is. Like, selfishly, this podcast was for me to, like, pick people's brains so I can learn something about it, whether it be, to help me tell a story right, tell a character right, write a song, something like that, so that, I could take it and use it in my own personal life. And, audio editing, I did that in film school. That's no problem. So,
wow,
it's just like,
that's a skill you didn't know would come back around. That's really cool.
No, and that was one of the things that I like. Camera work is what I love doing. Camera work, video editing. That's where I mainly stuck with in film school. Audio editing, although I will say I know audio is important, was not the class that I would pay attention in sometimes. But then I was just like, you know what? Honestly, it all translates. It's all the same. I record using a mixer that I can use in a field where if somebody needed me to record something, I could do that. So it's just, it all goes hand in hand, really. So.
Wow, that's really cool. I appreciate you sharing that. I'm always intrigued. I think that's another way we're probably similar. I really, really like hearing about other people's processes, especially creatives from different walks of life or different mediums, visual artists, filmmakers. I'm really fascinated how you all make things work.
I appreciate that. It's with film, I've just always gone with my gut, and so far it's been okay. It's worked out for me so far. So, but yeah, no, it's funny because there's when it comes to something creative and working on a project that you care about, like there's no manual or book to guide you through any of that. It's all feeling. Like all your music that we were talking about earlier. It's all you. It's all what you're feeling and what you think you should do and what you should do. It's all you, and that's what makes it so personal and just such a wonderful medium. Whatever, whether it's film or music or art or writing, any of that. So
yeah, I think that's 100% correct.
There we go. But we should talk about the new album when it's dropping. But sidebar. By the time this episode comes out, it would already be out. But I'm just curious, where can people pick up the album or follow you online? All that good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is the debut record. The title of the album is The Wreckage. And it is available on all streaming platforms. So whatever your preference is, it is available on all streaming platforms. And if you're really feeling ambitious and you want to be super indie musician friendly, I will proudly shout at the mountaintops about Bandcamp. If not just for me, for any independent artist, especially during the quarantine. I can't express enough how genuinely helpful and they're absolutely the real deal. Supporting independent artists on Bandcamp is one of the best ways you can show some love from afar. So definitely check it out on Bandcamp. It's also available on streaming platforms, like I said, Apple, Spotify, whatever your preference might be. And then the social media handle is at Charles Grace Music.
There you go. Charles, I just want to thank you so much for the wonderful chat. Anytime you want to come back and just chill and talk more about, extra credit music projects, I'd be happy to do so.
I think I will be happy to do that myself. I really enjoy talking to you as well.
Okay, I'm glad. But I will let you go and continue to have a wonderful day and stay safe and healthy. All right, man?
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.